Hello, and welcome to another episode of Let's Get Printing. I'm your host, Zach Dewhurst, the Business Development Manager at DecoNetwork. I also happen to be the owner of PrintPhase, a plastisol and DTF heat transfer supply company that I started back in 2009. The following year, I signed up for the game-changing software DecoNetwork to manage my shop. And one thing that I've learned in all my time in the industry is that there's really three big suppliers: Sanmar, SNS Activewear, and Alphabroder. And yesterday, some really big news broke in which SNS Activewear acquired Alphabroder. That is essentially a $2 billion company buying another $2 billion company. And we're here today to talk about it with Merl, owner of Make a Tea Online that she founded all the way back in 2012. Merl also was on the Gildan board of decorators and is a black belt in Taekwondo. So don't mess with Merl. Now, before we jump into today's episode about this gigantic acquisition that you don't see every day, we're going to talk about our sponsor, DecoNetwork, the all-in-one software to manage your decoration business. Unlike DecoNetwork's competitors, we are a true all-in-one, so you don't need to be paying for multiple software subscriptions to manage your decoration business. Most shops want a front end, but must have a back-end management system, and DecoNetwork does both. So when it comes time to quote customers or provide a site to a client, or you want your own site with a design tool for your customers to design and order from, DecoNetwork has everything you need all on one platform. You can effortlessly organize production, integrate with suppliers, manage your orders, and sell online from one place. These three suppliers all have live inventory and smart purchase ordering capabilities, so you can order directly through DecoNetwork. DecoNetwork streamlines your workflow from order management, production workflows, and shipping. Plus, with its powerful e-commerce capabilities, you can create a beautiful online store in minutes. It's time to take your business to the next level. Visit DecoNetwork.com and request your free demo today. Hey, Merl, how's it going?
Hi, Zach. Everything has gone great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad that you were available today because yesterday, I don't want to say a bomb was dropped, but it's some of the biggest news we've heard, in our industry as far as an acquisition goes. I mean, we're talking about two of the largest companies in the industry, SNS and Alphabroder. One acquired the other. So, what was that like when you first heard that news?
Well, I think I saw it either pop up on my Instagram feed or pop up on my email, and it was kind of like the end of the day, and I was rushing around trying to get out to go to a meeting, and I was like, holy shit. And then it was like, oh my God, what's that all about? And so then I went to my meeting, and I didn't even really think about it till this morning, except for when I got home. I told my husband right away, oh my God, I can't believe this, everything happening with these big name companies. And actually this year it's been a lot of stuff with Gildan and the and the CEO and everything like that, and all this news. This is really, really, really big news. Yeah. So well, I don't know, what are your thoughts about it? And I will always make time for you, so thank you.
So in our industry here in the States, we have three big suppliers. And when I say the big three, I mean they're light years ahead just based on what they're able to do and everything. So you have Sanmar, SNS Activewear, Alphabroder. If you're selling shirts in the industry, I don't care if you do any production in-house, you outsource everything, you should have accounts with all three. And I don't care if you just use two of the three. Very rarely, you're kind of dumb not to have accounts with all three, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Most shops are very strategic, trying to get to free shipping as often as possible. So what does that typically mean? You have a go-to supplier, but again, you still have the other two. So all three, free shipping at $200. If you're doing crazy volume, you're having $1 million worth of shirts shipped to you, they're going to offer you free shipping no matter the size of the order. So at the end of the day, if you're selling shirts or if you're selling custom printing, embroidery, and so forth onto apparel, you need an account with all three. And all three have warehouses located throughout the entire United States. Sanmar, I don't know if you know this, last month they opened up a new $1 million square foot facility or a distribution center in Virginia. They didn't close anything. They added another 1 million square foot facility. And the industry is only growing. Merl, until people stop wearing apparel, we're good. we're
We are good. I mean, when you look at like the numbers, how many billions of dollars the apparel industry is, it just blows your mind. It was funny because so kind of just recently, SNS just put out TSF and I think a couple other smaller ones, and we're still like, well, we don't have our sales rep, and we're still trying to get used to SNS, the new SNS, because their location. There's one in Pompano Beach, which is very, very close to our location, which we used to go back and forth, like, I don't know, like maybe like 3 or 4 times a week because they're only like 15 minutes away. And then when SNS took them over, kind of changed because the whole culture kind of changed a little bit. So we had like a little bit of like, well, maybe we'll order more from Sanmar. And, but like what you're saying, we do it for the free shipping. We compare, pennies on an order. If an order has, a couple thousand shirts, those pennies make a big difference.
Yep.
They make a big difference to you. They make a big difference to the customer. They make a big difference sometimes if you get an order or not, if you're bidding, so, I mean, having those three, like you're saying, you have to kind of just to see what's around. So what I'm wondering, I don't know if you've thought about it. Do you think that there's not going to be too many abilities for us to price match? Like they may be able to just call their number.
Now, as you know, Merl, DecoNetwork is a sponsor of the private group Shirt Lab Tribe, and we actually talked about this in quite a bit of detail yesterday. And in my opinion, I don't think much is going to change at all. At least, if you read the press release, which I read, the first one was through PPAI, and for the next year, I mean, it's going to take them a long time to change anything, but really they're going to keep operating under the same brand, same distribution centers. And I started looking at, where are SNS's distribution centers located compared to Alpha? They're pretty much in the same cities. A lot of them are. I mean, we're talking within 15 minutes of each other. You have two brands essentially kind of competing. And at the same time, I like to look at it outside of our industry. I mean, I can't think of a great example, but like fast food. What a lot of people may not realize is you may have two fast food companies competing with each other right next to each other, but they're owned by the same conglomerate company. I mean, all of the time. A lot of stuff in the stores, look, it's this brand and then it's this brand. It's the same company. They're just using different marketing approaches to appeal to different audiences. When it comes to these three suppliers, they all are a little different. So SNS Alpha, SNS Activewear, Alpha, and Sanmar all offer Gildan. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. They all offer a lot of the same well-known brands that are go-to. And when I say kind of go-to well-known, we're talking everything from the cheaper to the higher quality. I mean, you want next level BellaCanas, all three have them. What really separates the three, at least for me right off the bat, are the name brand products that each one of them offer. And I've always found this really interesting. Yeah, they're exclusive. Well, so let's do performance. Nike. Okay. You only get Nike through one of those three, Sanmar. You want Adidas, you have to go to SNS. You can't go to Alpha or Sanmar. You want Under Armour, you have to go to Alphabroder. And I don't really see any of that changing. So the first reason to have all three is really actually inventory, because if one of the suppliers out of that Gildan 5000 in that color and size, you're hoping that the other two have it. And then second is just the fact that you can't get that product from anywhere else but that supplier if you wanted a wholesale price. Mm-hmm. The other big reason I see a lot of shops, you're trying to get to free shipping, so you often have a go-to, or like you just described, a lot of shops like to get their blanks from the supplier that's located closest to them. And that's very common. Just, before we keep diving into this, who is your go-to supplier, or do you not really have a go-to and you're using all three equally?
So we used to use TSF more than anything. Number one reason is because the sales rep would come in here all the time, and we knew her, so we would call her up sometimes if we would see something like, hey, we need to get this because we have an order that has to go out. In our industry, everybody orders last minute. So we would have a big order, and we would have a one person directly. We could call her up, and we would say, can you give us a better price? Can I get this, like a nickel off or whatever? And Sanmar wasn't doing that unless the order was at a certain level. And so we used TSF like 99, maybe like 80% of the time. And we would buy from, I remember we used to buy from Bodick and Rhodes. It was Bodick and Rhodes and Alphabroder. And they were actually in the same neighborhood in Philadelphia, like next to each other, kind of, not too far from each other. So then they merged, and then that took a little getting used to, but we would buy from TSF most of the time. Then when SNS bought them, we hardly ever bought from SNS, but then they had certain things, like they had certain baseball caps that we liked and certain other things. And actually it was my daughter, Stephanie, she's like, hey mom, SNS has these products and we can't get this at TSF. So we're like, okay, well, that's good. That's good. Then when they merged, all of a sudden it was a pandemic-ish around there, and you couldn't go pick things up. You couldn't drop things off. And it was
inventory's a nightmare.
Yeah, it was crazy, crazy, crazy. So we started ordering from Sanmar because they seemed to have more inventory. And then we just started ordering from Sanmar. And we feel like when you pick up the phone now at SNS, of course, I don't know. I'm not this big, gigantic company like they are. I feel they're still growing because of buying these other companies, and they don't have the employees knowledgeable yet to be able to handle all the new customers that are coming their way from all these other stores. Now they're growing again, and I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen now? So now we're buying more from Sanmar than we were before.
So, let's talk about acquiring, because sometimes, hey, look, we've acquired somebody, and so that can distract a business. We kind of like at DecoNetwork, let Inktovo acquire somebody else. Let them do it. They're just spinning their wheels. Let them figure out how to integrate all that together. When it comes to this, Alpha and SNS, this is going to take a long time. And we don't know if it'll become one brand or again, they may just keep both. I don't see why not. I don't see why they want to complicate things. It's working, happens all the time in business. Somebody buys another brand. That doesn't mean they're going to just shut that off and get rid of that brand. They're going to keep both companies. And I kind of like what you just said there about, your reps and so forth. So in our industry, there's so many, the competition just keeps increasing. The barrier of entry just keeps going down. How do you separate yourself from the pack? And what we talk about in Shirt Lab all the time is it's everything outside of putting ink or thread onto a product. It's everything else that goes into it, all those other services, because the product itself is kind of the last little thing. Mm-hmm. And I've always been a big fan of Sanmar, personally, just what I've experienced. They do such a good job with the service. So I do have a local rep who stops by the shop at least once a year. I have a rep at the company that if I have a question or a problem, I can shoot an email very quickly. I've always felt that Sanmar tries to make everything as easy as possible on their customer. If I check out on SNS, I want to use a credit card, they're going to hit me with a fee. Frustrates me. Right. Alphabroder, they drop ship a lot of product from third part, from another manufacturer. So their $200 worth of free shipping is really $200 in which is coming from their warehouse. Exactly. Everything just gets more complicated versus I've liked how Sanmar, hey, we don't care how many warehouses we have to pull it from. It's over $200, ships free. They just make it simple.
They make it easy. Yeah.
If you look at the three big suppliers, and I have it kind of pulled up. So let's recap. SNS acquired Alpha.
Yes.
And we'll come back to that. But if you're looking at PPAI has a list of their largest suppliers, and they make this list every single year. And the largest supplier in the industry is Sanmar. They are doing a lot more in revenue than the other two. And when I say so something that Alpha and SNS have loved to market for many years is they offer more products, and they do offer more than Sanmar. The problem is, I don't care if you offer more if you can't control inventory very well. And you're only as strong as your supply chain, Merl. And I've always had more inventory issues with SNS and Alpha than I have Sanmar, especially before the pandemic. We can't really judge things, and we're still recovering from the pandemic. But I've always seen Sanmar doesn't overreach. They don't offer more colors and more sizes. You know, the Gildan 5000, we'll just use it. SNS Alphabroder offer more colors and sizes than Sanmar. Well, Sanmar likes to go after what is the most popular stuff, and we'll control the inventory really well on that, and we won't overreach. So, you know, when you're choosing a supplier, don't just choose it based on the brands they offer and that they offer more colors and size availability. At the end of the day, it only matters if they can control the inventory itself. And
well, also some of the stuff that they offer, not some of the stuff, a lot of the stuff is not stuff that they actually have, but it's drop shipped from the suppliers. So you have to order like you know, from their drop ship, and if you don't make their drop ship, or you don't make the quantity of their drop ship or the rules of their drop ship, then you can't order the product. So it looks like they have all these things, but they really don't have them available unless you.
And it's a turnoff. To me, I know.
Different drop ship rules.
Yep. That's why I've been a Sanmar guy. But again, SNS and Alpha, absolutely. It also depends on your market. So these three suppliers, each one has a little bit of a specialty. So with Sanmar, their specialty is everyday apparel. It is the most popular stuff that somebody's going to wear. And the other big thing I really like about Sanmar is they manufacture a lot of their own brands, which the other two really don't do to that level. So Port and Company, Port Authority, District, Sport Tech, these are products that you're buying direct, which means they have better control of inventory. You know, it's rare that I have inventory issues with these. And you've cut out another middleman. I don't know about you, Merl, but Sport Tech, District, I mean, I love those shirts for the money. They're great products.
Yeah, I do too. I'll tell you a little story about something that happened yesterday. We actually had received an order, black shirts and white shirts from SNS. Half of the white shirts were white. The other half of the white shirts were
yellow,
a different shade of white.
Yep.
We looked at the tags. Some were from Honduras. Some were from Bangladesh.
Yep.
And they, you know, but they were specific. Like the smalls and the extra larges were from one place, and the mediums and the larges were from another. I called SNS. I said, hey, we need to either swap the others, but they have to all be the same shade. And they still have not gotten back to me with the resolve. But I called Sanmar. They knew immediately where the distribution came from for that product, for what colors, and they were able to ship me what I needed. So I'm just going to have to, unfortunately, return them to SNS or use them for another job or something. But they knew right away, just on a phone call.
They just do everything right. They literally just put themselves in your shoes, Merl. Here's your problem. I need it solved. And I'm spending tens of thousands of dollars with you a year. Do you want to keep me happy by just using some common sense and say, we'll take care of it? And it just, that's been my experience. And again, I'm not trashing SNS and Alpha, but I've talked with a lot of shops, and hey, I don't like seeing pen marks on my shirts.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that really upsets me.
Yeah, we
I
haven't
don't
talked
like,
about that.
and again, I get Sanmar shirts, and there will be a hole in them once in a while, and that just happens. I'm not putting, but I will say I have fewer pick errors through Sanmar, and
Yeah.
during the holiday season, they all are using more, additional labor, but all these warehouses are also going more smart. They're taking out some of the human error, but hey, mistakes are going to happen. You want to work with a company that'll own up to it and make it right immediately.
Right.
Before. And, again, some people's experience is different than others, but Sanmar, I just can't speak highly enough of how well they treat you. I love their own brands. But again, they offer like half the amount of products as SNS and Alpha. If you go into DecoNetwork, you enable Sanmar SNS Alpha, Sanmar will have half the amount of SKUs.
Right. Right.
And it's strategic.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
if they offered as much as the other two, they wouldn't have the control that they have. So Alpha and SNS like to offer a lot of the Gildan shirts a little bit cheaper than Sanmar. If I was doing a 5,000 piece job, I'd look at all three. Absolutely. But if my average order, is 50 pieces and Alpha will, sell me Gildan 5,000 for 3 cents less, it's not a deal breaker for me because before I know it, I'm not actually getting to free shipping and other things. And it's, but what are the other two Specialized? So Sanmar specializes in their own brand every day.
Yeah.
SNS.
Their brands, because I think that their brands, especially for the women's when they have more diversity in the women's styles, and they wash better and they print great. But when you wash them, their brands, they still look good after many washes, where a lot of the other stuff that when you have not 100% cotton, but the blends, they tend to fill up a little bit. But I think like the District brand and the Mercer Metal, they are great. They
Cornerstone polos. I'm telling you, you want some nice stuff. Well, and I think they all of the brands they learn the trends and so forth. One thing that I've seen Sanmar do is look at a lot what SNS has been doing. So when I've always thought of SNS focuses a little bit more on the fashion. So they have the same mix essentially as Sanmar, but then they take it a little further as far as fashion. So like BellaCanas, you can get at both, but they offer more at SNS because Sanmar kind of would rather do some of their own District and so forth. But as far as like the fashion forward, a little bit higher quality stuff, SNS had the edge on Sanmar for a while. One thing that SNS also definitely had an edge on Sanmar were hats. You brought it up a second ago.
Yeah.
The most popular hat in the industry by a mile is the Richardson 112. You can only get it from SNS. You can't get that from Sanmar. Now, Sanmar has a very comparable, but the 112 is super popular.
Yeah,
so SNS,
they know that they ask for it.
Yeah. And so SNS has always done a great job at, staying a little ahead as far as fashion trends, in my opinion, and making sure they have more of those products. It may not be demanded as often as the everyday, but they have it. And then you have Alpha, and Alpha specialty, in my opinion, has always been their athletic wear. They have the Augusta product line and so forth. So they have more of your jerseys and so forth. It's a different market. My average B2B transaction, I don't need athletic wear. I don't need necessarily fashion wear. So, you should always have accounts with all three. They each carry certain name brands that the others don't. They have specialty products. So again, they all are good for one another. At every Impressions Long Beach show, which is by far the best show of the year, myself and DecoNetwork's management team, we meet with Sanmar's higher ups. And one thing they've always said in every meeting is their competition is good. They wouldn't say a negative thing about the other two, and as they shouldn't, because they help push each other. And this industry grows so much, and there's so much out there, they need one another. They really do, Merl. I mean,
they do, because they can't handle all of us.
No, they can't. They don't want it all either.
No, they don't. But the other thing with Alphabroder is they also have Prime. They also have Prime promotional
Now
products.
we're going to talk about that in a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
what
that was
that
a big,
means.
and all of a sudden they had that. And I don't know if you remember, that company was called Norwood, I think. They had Norwood, they had, and that had, then they bought out like big pens. I think they bought, like those Post-it notes and, some more ASI-ish kind of stuff. And then when I saw that Alpha got Prime, and then you go to a show and you see that Prime is also like journal book, like all these different companies that are all like becoming like one thing now. Like there's going to be one circus tent.
Yep.
It's going to get an admission to the circus.
Well, and let's talk. Alpha's done two things in the past few years. And one is a lot more controversial than the other, but to some people, both are controversial. So let's start with hard goods. You just mentioned they bought Primeline, and it also had several other brands. So this is actually a promo product, phone charger that I outsourced to Alpha. It was really easy because I already had an Alpha account. I don't currently have an ASI or Sage account, so the easiest way for me to get these at a really good price was to go through Alpha. So Alpha now does hard goods. And when I say they do them, that two different ways. You can buy them blank. Pretty cool to be able to buy promo products blank, especially with like UV DTF coming along and just being able to slap that three-dimensional sticker. It's never been easier to offer low run promo product without even having equipment. If you can put a sticker on something, you can do it. You don't want to do it thousands of times, but you can absolutely do it. So I love that they offer the hard good, but they also offer the decoration service. Now, when it comes to hard goods, you have to have very special equipment. Typically each promo product that's printed, there's a designated piece of equipment with a jig on that. You don't want to be taking it off. I mean, you don't use the same machine to print pens as this. If you're a promo, it may still be pad printing as an example, but guess what?
Yeah.
They do, but they're totally different sets of machines set up to just do that, because that machine is set up to do thousands of these a day, and you just can't do it yourself. And because of that, I have no problem with them doing the decorating. No problem with them doing the decorating there. And now some shops I talk to, they see it as a controversy. What I see as a bigger controversy is they also offer contract decorating for apparel. And that is a conflict of interest in my opinion. And I don't think that was helping their bottom line as much as maybe they thought it would, because they have this other revenue coming in, because it ticked off a lot of shop owners like you and me. And I don't do contract work. It's not what my shop does. But there's a lot of shops out there that spend a lot of money on blank shirts, and they offer contract decorating. And all of a sudden, one of the biggest suppliers in the industry decides, you know what, we're going to buy our own equipment. We're also going to offer the same service that you do, which makes them direct competition.
Yeah, that's not cool. That to me is a big no-no. Like, that's really kind of scary. You wonder, like, do they have the integrity to not go after a customer whose logo
exactly.
You don't know, right? I mean, I know in-house, I know if I send something to Bullet Line isn't going to call my customer.
Yep.
They're never going to do that. Now, if I send it to somebody else that doesn't have an 8 rating with promotional products, they could do that. Now, just because they may have an 8 rating doesn't mean, because they're after business. Bottom line is they're after business. And if they see a big account, you don't, I mean, I wouldn't think that they would do that. I really wouldn't expect them to do that.
You would think they wouldn't. But the other kind of like little like twist in it is when you outsource that to Bullet Line, they theoretically they won't, but they could come after your customer. It's harder for them because they're going direct to the consumer versus with Alphabroder, shop like mine doesn't have big auto screen printing equipment to take that 1,000-piece order. So I outsource it to a shop like Same Day Tees. Now, the thing is, I'll order the product from Alpha, I'll have it dropped to Same Day Tees. Well, if I now all of a sudden, with Alphabroder doing contract work, they may be stealing a customer who actually was already an Alpha customer for the blank portion. You know what I mean? So instead of me now going to same day tees, now I'm just going straight to Alpha for both steps. And that's, again, it's just, I would like to know kind of the revenue before and after that decision, and have a poll. And I want to know how many shops saw this as like one of the last straws. If I had to choose between a couple and they're doing this, I don't want to talk about politics right now, but there are, right now you go too far one way or the other and you let all your customers know, you're going to lose some customers.
You will.
It's a fact. You just keep your mouth shut. Sticker Mule. I don't know if you saw what Sticker Mule did a couple weeks ago, but it was like, what are you thinking doing that? You lost a lot of customers.
They did. There was a couple controversial things that, I guess I don't want to say, but a couple of controversial things that have happened in the past, and you have to kind of like, hey, you're in business, okay? You're not standing up on the podium there. You're in business.
Yep.
What are you supposed to do? And I was called on to give my opinion on a couple things for some companies, and I said, hey, I get it, but this person will buy from you if you whatever you offer. So don't make a stand. Don't make a stand. I think that they're getting back to Broder doing Prime and doing in-house printing. I think that there's a big reason for it. We are in the promotional products business as well as the decorating apparel business, as well as the printing business. And there are many, many, many. In fact, most of the people that sell promotional products are just salespeople. They're not graphic designers. They always outsource their printing for T-shirts. When they get, in fact, a lot of the promotional product resellers, they really didn't do T-shirts. They did things like pens and the chargers and coffee mugs and keychains.
And then it led to the apparel.
Then it started to lead to the apparel. So I remember like going to ASI shows a long time ago, and if there was an apparel distributor there, that was like a big deal. Like, oh yeah, that's great because we sell that stuff also. But most of them, they just like would walk right past it because it wasn't really their thing. Then they have a customer. The customer asks them for sunglasses, and they want T-shirts to go with the sunglasses. So they start selling that. That's got to be why Alphabroder started doing that, for that big customer base. Now we who do our own printing in house, we're not that person, but they're marketing to that person that doesn't have a screen printer, that doesn't have a graphic designer, that doesn't have those resources. So I don't think that I think they did it really for that reason. I just really think it was.
I think you are absolutely correct, Merl. And it wasn't until very recently did I start like kind of looking at the different lanes in our industry. Because once you start buying equipment, you kind of get in that one lane. And I know you're a little different because you started offering the paper printing, the promo stuff before a lot of us. So let's go back pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, if you sold promo, you most likely didn't own a piece of equipment. You were on a Sage or an ASI, and all you did was outsource. And when I say promo, the number one promo product is apparel. This is DecoNetwork. This is a promo product. I mean, how can you not call it a promo product? So apparel is like the number one go-to. But that's not how we all often thought. Now, during COVID, we're all looking to diversify ourselves, get that extra income and so forth. We had a lot of time on our hands. So what did a lot of shop owners start doing? They started looking at, you know what, I'll get on ASI or Sage, Distributor Central, now Swag Space and so forth. It's gotten to the point, Merl, where promo is almost, I would say 5 years ago when I consult, 20% of the shops I talked to on DecoNetwork started offering promo. And it was kind of a newer thing. I talk to shops now, it's like 50%. And it's only increasing because the customers are demanding it. Every time I got to say no, I'm giving the competition a chance to steal that client. If you want to maintain that one-stop shop presence, it's not being a one-stop apparel shop. It's being a one-stop decoration shop, which means apparel. You're going to need to be doing more signage, promo, awards. And what I didn't realize, Merl, is, you know what? It's not just making 10% off the top. You know, it's not just making a little, there's good money and outsourcing, you know, being a distributor. You know, I wanted to buy an EcoSolvent printer really badly. I wanted to be able to print my own banners, do these clings and so forth. Then I realized how cheap it was to outsource through a wholesale trade partner. That's what you're really looking for, is a wholesale trade partner when it comes to paper printing, signage. Once you start getting in there and you start seeing the prices, you're like, no way am I buying this equipment. There's just no way. And when it comes to promo, again, it's so specialized of equipment. I never saw that as a true conflict of interest. But I do think you're right about Alpha. They started to be like, and again, we're making some assumptions here, but they may have thought, you know what? We have this group of people who just outsource everything, and then we have these other shop owners. And these are the two main big piles of customers. And they decided, you know what? We can service these distributors. We can make it a one-stop shop, but there might be a trade-off with upsetting some of these shops who are also doing printing themselves. And they made that decision. And I wonder, hey, Merl, maybe they're doing way better. We don't know. I mean, there's a lot of distribution centers. They're not going to tell us. But what PPAI showed us last year, I saw this not a couple years ago, a little while back. And then I actually looked at DecoNetwork because I can see some statistics just based on DecoNetwork users and get an idea of what's going on. So PPAI, for those who are out there, so you have two main essentially platforms to sell promo through: Sage, ASI. Sage's partner is PPAI. It's a nonprofit organization. It's all about education on the industry. If you want to sell promo product and you don't own a piece of equipment and your one job is to sell and market, PPAI helps educate you on how to do that properly. That's their role. Well, correct. PPAI, again, that's how I learned of the news yesterday. They were one of the first to release it. But they have a list of their top suppliers in the industry it's their promotional product suppliers, which encapsulates apparel and hard goods. Right. Number one in the industry, $3.9 billion last year, Sanmar. Incredible. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't surprise me based on all of their service, everything they do, just how they do business. Not a shock to me that they're the biggest in the industry. They don't offer the most amount of products. It's a misconception. Oh, more products. They're bigger. They're better. No. Sanmar is, like I said, $3.9 billion. Number two on that list, number two is Alphabroder. And that because Alphabroder is number two on the list, a lot of the DecoNetwork team found it interesting that Alpha didn't acquire SNS. Personally, working with both companies, I kind of get why one acquired the other. Also, remember, revenue. I hate revenue. I hate it because you know what?
Doesn't mean profit.
Doesn't mean anything, Merl. It's profit. Right. That's the only number that matters. I would rather do, $500,000 in sales and profit 300 than do $1 million in sales and profit 100. Yeah. It's common sense. I also, several times I'm like, I kind of wish, I'd rather own 60% of the business and do a lot more in revenue because I have a business partner to help me. And so revenue, throw it out the window. It doesn't mean anything. Profit's the only thing that matters. But from a revenue standpoint, Sanmar 3.9, Alphabroder 2. So what does that mean? Sanmar's doing twice as much in annual sales as Alphabroder. That's simple.
So if they combine SNS and Alpha, what's that number going to be?
So number 5 on the list, and I don't know why they're number 5 if this is the case. SNS is $2.2 billion. So let's take Sanmar and Alpha, and you are at no, 4.3. Sanmar's at 3.9 by themselves. So again, it's interesting, but I think, everybody should have accounts with big three. I don't think the average shop owner knew that Sanmar's twice the other two. And when I say twice the revenue, I bet you their profit is better than the other two. I really do.
It was too, yeah.
But did you know that going into today that Sanmar did twice the amount of sales? You wouldn't think that unless you saw it.
Yeah, I thought SNS was bigger because they other companies, but yeah, you learn something new every day, right?
So what in DecoNetwork, going back to what I was kind of saying, I can run a report to see how many purchase orders were sent through Deco. So how many times somebody was ordering from one of these suppliers and then what the actual amount was. And I found it very interesting, Sanmar being twice as the other. It's identical in DecoNetwork. If you look at the percentages, they're like identically the same as how much PO is sent to Sanmar versus these other two. Sanmar was essentially, if you took Alpha and SNS, you combined them, you equaled Sanmar as far as the amount of purchase orders and the total order value for the blanks. They are pretty much the same.
Okay. So you know what? Now that you got me thinking, I wonder, did SNS also buy all of Alpha? Like, did they buy Prime? Or did they?
Again, we're talking about news that's like 24 hours old, and I'm really excited that you're able to be available to talk about this. It's still, things are still coming out. So I don't know. I would think that it is all 100%. I mean, I don't see how you couldn't. Again, they're still releasing.
It's separate. You don't know what their inner workings were.
No, and you don't know what they're going to change. What is SNS? Is SNS going to pull back on the reins on the contract apparel decorating? SNS recently launched a contract decorator network. I not really used it. I'm not really sure. I mean, I could tell you Sanmar has a list of contract decorators that are listed as preferred decorators in which you can drop ship some of the name brands to them. They're not necessarily pushing you towards, they are kind of pushing you, but Sanmar, we've always joked at DecoNetwork, they're Switzerland. They will never step on the toe of anybody. They will never say anything bad about anybody. They won't really recommend one over another.
It's their culture, I guess.
It's their culture. They want to make everybody happy. They also view the industry as one ecosystem. And again, if Alpha or SNS folded overnight, it would make Sanmar's life a lot more difficult. It really would. So I've always again, Sanmar's so many great things, but they look at it of everything, and they even quoted Sanmar in the article, because that would be like the first person you kind of interview outside of the SNS and Alpha. They got a quote from each of the CEOs, and I found Sanmar's to be interesting. I'm going to pull it up here, see what they said exactly. So Sanmar CEO, we have great competitors today, as we've had for over 50 years. We will continue to be focused on our customers and how we can best service them. That's what has made us a successful in the past and will continue to be our focus in the future. So again, and that'll always be their mindset. They all need each other. It's one ecosystem in our industry. But what is it going to change? What does this acquisition merger mean? Again, I still don't think it means that much. I don't think prices are all of a sudden it's a monopoly and this is the way it's going to go. I don't see that being the case.
I just hope that they train their sales reps. I hope that they train their staff, because I think that they're still working on that. And that I hope that I feel like a lot of people that they get hired for jobs and they're not trained on exactly all the good information about that product. They only have like a certain script to go by, and that's all they learn. That's all they know what to say. And I think that they need to really train their people to understand more of our needs. We are their core customer. Small business in this country is the base of the country. And I really feel that they need to understand that, as opposed to, not everybody buys, a million shirts a day.
Yep. And well, and I think that's also why keeping them as two separate brands and so forth would be a better idea, because can you imagine being a rep having a, know 5,000 products and keep that, organized. And so it just overcomplicates. There's a reason, that they don't currently do that. And it will be interesting. It's big news. What does it mean to the average shop owner? I don't think much. I really don't. I don't think prices are going to change. I don't think the products being offered are going to really change. I don't think Sanmar is going to be making gigantic changes. Acquisitions like this happen every single day in the world. It's just our industry. Hey, 2 of the biggest 5 suppliers decided to do this.
Yeah.
It didn't happen overnight.
No,
this has been worked on for a long time. The government had to sign off on it. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to see this hurt us in any way. That's just what I'm convinced.
I do. One thing I have to give SNS credit for is that they do some great marketing. Like every day I get emails with great marketing, things that I can actually even take and share that also and use that for our marketing. So I really look at them as they do great marketing. I think that, there's a lot of businesses that use manufacturers' reps to actually rep their product.
Yep.
And we will get those manufacturers' reps from certain of the smaller brand. Well, not small, like let's say Lane 7. So they have manufacturers' reps from that company that will come to visit us a lot more often than than Alternative would come, but maybe Alternative in certain areas they have in the area manufacturers reps. Those are the people that know about the product more because they actually work for that.
Yes. And here's what I like to do now. When I go to a trade show, I will walk around the entire room at some point and I tally what I see at the booths. So like everybody offers DTF, just based, if you just look at my demand, it's obvious DTF is in style, which was always the case. One thing I've started to notice more is the trade shows have all changed since COVID quite a bit, but you're actually seeing fewer of these big 3 going to the shows or even spending more money on bigger booths. And you're seeing more of the brands they sell having their own booth. So you do get that better experience when it comes to service, right? Because if I want to learn more about BellaCanas' products, I could talk to SNS or Sanmar, or I could go to the BellaCanas booth where, all they know and think about are the products that they offer. And I am seeing that way more often now. The big 3 are spending less on their booths, and they're kind of encouraging their suppliers. So that, what I mean? Because really,
And I know, Gildan has a web on their website where you can actually go to their website and there's an area where you can actually see who has what product there. So you don't have to call all 3. You can actually go there, see who has it, what's in stock, what sizes, what colors, and it's really kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, and what's the new software everybody has been talking a little bit about? DVI, DJI. I can never remember. What is it, Merl?
It's like DPI or something like that. I have to find that. I have it downloaded, but I actually gave my phone to Sarah, so it doesn't ring while I'm talking to you. but I have it, and it works great. It was on one of the people from Print Girl Mafia. So any women who are watching this, join Print Girl Mafia on Facebook and Instagram. It's a great group of women in the printing business, and they share a lot of information, which is awesome. But it was on there that somebody had it, and they developed a software that you can just go on there and you can see who has what and who has the best price. They did it really for pricing purposes.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I can't even find it on Google right now.
Yeah, you'll have to put it in the notes or something.
Yeah, it's like 3 letters, but in the past 6 months is when all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, I like to use this. And again, if I'm doing 12 shirts in Gildan 5, I'm not price shopping. I'm not doing it. It's not worth my time. If I'm doing 1,200 shirts, well, 10 cents adds up. on 1,200 shirts, like you said.
Right. Right.
And Merl, you're a part of tell us a little bit about your relationship with Gildan and what exactly you've done there.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, had the privilege of being on the Gildan board of decorators, and that gave me an opportunity to go to Honduras to see the factory, to see how everything is made. Completely blew my mind about the quality, and and the people there, and how the people are making everything, and their lifestyle, and how totally like almost 100% vertical, like almost 100% vertical Gildan is. And they have like practically zero waste. They like recycle everything. And it's amazing. It's really, really amazing. I was really glad that I had that opportunity, and I got to go to their corporate offices, and I got to print some DTF for some trade shows where they were showcasing new products. I got to experience how they make the comfort colors, and what the difference is between the comfort colors versus the regular fabric and the regular shirts, and how the threads are dyed.
Because Gildan's been buying. I mean, they bought Comfort Colors Anvil a few years ago.
Yeah,
I mean, they've done some acquiring over the years.
Yeah, and I got to get to put my 2 cents into a lot of things that they actually implemented. Plus, I met some great people that we're still buddies. I mean, we're still really good buddies, and we still consult each other and call each other and share things with each other. And they're all over the country, and I really enjoy that. And it's gotten me to learn more, to be able to open up more, and to be able to. I mean, the more you're in the industry, the more you learn, the better off you are.
Yeah.
And don't ever stop learning, because there's always things. But I really got to put my opinion in to even ad campaigns, and seeing them implement the ad campaigns and seeing them like actually be successful is really pretty cool. It's really pretty cool.
And again, I can't speak for the other brands, but when I first entered the industry like 15 years ago, Gildan was one of a few that were always competing for like really the lowest price point. I mean, let's just go with the cheapest shirt. And how I got started in the industry was I worked in a t-shirt shop that we didn't even print shirts. All we did was sell them. And I got into the industry because I started finding out how cheap the shirt was compared to what we were selling it for. And we sold a lot of Gildan. We sold some Hanes, Delta, jerseys, and so forth. And at the end of the day, Gildan was always my favorite. They were my go-to, and the heavy cotton line, and then they had the ultra, the best. But if you look at Gildan today compared to those others, Gildan's like way ahead. And I wonder again if it's the little things they're doing, like talking with their decorators, their board of director. They're making decisions and stuff based on that.
They
It's
are
everything. Like, I don't care what part of the business you're in the industry. It's not the product you sell or the service you do. It's all the other stuff that goes behind it.
Right. Like one of the big things was that women's shirts were really too small. Like they cut them so small that like a little Barbie doll could wear them,
BellaCanas.
Yeah. Yeah. And they listened to us, and they made them bigger, like right away, like immediately we saw it happening. Like they care about the collars on the shirts and the seam stitching and things like that. And just like you're saying, just like the little things, and they implemented. That's the cool part. They actually listened. They didn't bring us on just for show, just for like a trophy kind of a thing. We actually put input in, me and the others, and then they had another group of people, and I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but then they had another group, and they had, they put their input in and shared and everything, and we got to meet them also. And so it's, it became like a really, really great thing that they did. I wish the other brands did it as well. Maybe they do. I know BellaCanas had like a BellaCanas University, and you went on and you listened to videos, and you had like classes, and you answered questions, so you learned more about BellaCanas, which I thought was a really good. Then you got like a little certificate that you could put on your email signature.
Certified.
but it was good, because you learn about more.
You have to educate. Like again, that's why you brought up at the very beginning. It's nice to, when you're working with a supplier, if that rep from the supplier stops by, you can keep up on things. Going to shows can get expensive, but again, it's a good place. Although, Merl, I'm seeing fewer and fewer samples being brought to the shows.
Yeah.
There's a lot less. I'm a big fan. Here's another thing that Sanmar does, and can't suggest enough. They will grommet their own shirts and charge. So they'll do more work to the shirt and charge you half the price. If it's one of their brands, it'll be like 25% off a name brand. And they're giving you a sales tool to communicate with your customer. I mean, take advantage of it. This is, again, one of the many things, goes beyond of what Sanmar's typically doing. That is what made them twice the size of the others, because they're making us better equipped to make a sale.
Right. They're not just sending us stuff that just has a tag on it. They're sending us stuff that we can actually have in our showroom that our customer will look at and say, hey, yeah, I do like this. Let me try it on. They know they can't take it or print it or do something, with it. They know that you're serious. When you look more professional, you're going to get more business. That's what I love about DecoNetwork too. When you look more professional, you get more business.
Well, again, this has been true forever. You're only as strong as your supply chain. And that supply chain in our industry is really the distributor, because that's what we're talking about with these three. And then the actual manufacturer of the product. Now with Sanmar, a lot of it is the same. But, using Gildan, if Gildan, goes down, or COVID or the Suez Canal, anything like one of those crazy things, it's not Sanmar, it's everybody. Sanmar, SNS, and Alpha is in trouble. So,
actually, a lot of the manufacturers are in the same area in Honduras where they actually sew the garments. They're kind of all around that same city there. I don't know how they get as many employees. They can probably bus them in. I don't know. but there's so many people work for these, for the apparel companies.
Yeah, well, again, when you're looking for a supplier, you're looking for somebody that, again, isn't going to let you down. That strong supply chain. When I say let you down, they ship you the right shirts. They ship it in the time that they say it's going to be, to get to free shipping, which is extremely important. I do not want to spend $50 on shipping. Something like Sanmar changed recently is it used to be the only way to get shirts from Sanmar was through UPS. And that meant if you had to order like 3 shirts, you're going to pay like $15-20 to have them shipped. And it was like, what the heck? And now, they have like the post office and so forth. That little thing right there could cut my postage down tremendously. But, again, when you're choosing a supplier, ask yourself a lot of different questions and so forth. And at the end of the year, how much headache did they give you? Because 10 cents here and there, it can add up on thousands of garments. But, you got to go with what makes the most sense. One of the biggest mistakes I can see a shop doing is trying to order from all 3 on a weekly basis and not have the volume. Hey, I know a lot of shops that have the volume. They could order every day from the 3 suppliers, get to free shipping. Right. But if you really want to get to that free shipping, which is extremely important to most shops, you typically have a go-to supplier. You choose that based on what products your customers are asking. Again, if your customers are primarily asking for jerseys and so forth, Alpha probably would be your go-to, depending on what they're asking for. You want a lot of fashion apparel, S&S. If it's a lot of everyday, maybe Sanmar. It also matters where you're located. Some of these suppliers have warehouses in the same areas. Others don't. We want to get our hands on the product as quickly as possible. When we quote a two-week turnaround time, there's a lot that goes into it. One of them is just the supply, getting the blank.
Yeah, especially when you have something like that's a fashionable style. You may have the smalls in Florida, the larges in Texas, the extra larges in Washington State. You don't know where they are.
You pulling from Washington would take forever.
Yeah, I know. But Alphabroder also does the thing where they'll ship to FedEx, to a local FedEx near you, and then you can go and pick it up. So
that seems complicated, but yeah, I mean, interesting. Versus, Right. So again, I hope our viewers found this conversation interesting. To kind of just, again, conclude it, absolutely have accounts with all three. This news, it's interesting. It's absolutely interesting. It'll be something to watch. I don't think it's going to flip the industry upside down. I don't think anything like that is going to be super dramatic.
But we don't want them to go to Walmart and buy their T-shirts there. And bring them to the print. We don't want that to happen.
Again, though, I mean, you can almost go into Walmart and get a shirt for as expensive as it cost us. So it's not like there isn't still competition with this stuff. And it'll just be an interesting thing to see. But having good relationships with all your suppliers is important, and make sure that supplier values you as much as you value them. Because the way I'm treated by Sanmar, I will talk highly of them to anybody I talk to. Hey, have you looked at Sanmar? Again, I'm not putting the others two down. There is a reason why one of them was acquired by the other, and there's a reason Sanmar wasn't acquired by another. I mean, if you really think about it too. Typically you're acquired for a reason. You're typically not making as much money as you were, and you kind of need to be bailed out. I don't know if that's the case. I also, again, I wonder, what a lot of the viewers think of Alphabroder selling promo and decorating it. I don't think most people would think it's a conflict of interest. The fact that they're embroidering and printing onto a shirt, and that was the bulk of what they sold for decades, that might have been a nail in the coffin. Maybe they're doing better than ever because of it. We don't know everything.
This will be the economy. I mean, I really do think that after or during COVID, and all of these companies got money, and what did they do with the money, and did it work for them, and did they spend it right, and did they make it back? And there's a lot of that, I believe, it has to do with, because I'm seeing a lot of businesses are changing, closing, shifting.
Alpha bought Primeline like months before COVID. I remember talking to their marketing manager at the Printing United Summit, and they bought it at like the worst time and then weren't able to really launch it for a couple of years. So who knows what they were sitting on. And, again, you're exactly right, Merl. We live in some crazy times. The world will never be the same after COVID. Just it takes years of recovery, and but it'll be absolutely interesting to see where things go. And one thing I think is true is you won't see a new big three pop up like and become a big four or anything like that. I just think now it's just too competitive, too difficult. Those three are so far ahead of the others.
You mean we're not going to see Activewear?
No. No. And you're not going to see DecoNetwork selling blanks and doing other things. No. But yeah, again, definitely always want accounts with all three. Nothing's changing that much. And yeah, when you go to a trade show, talk with their reps. But I also wonder what it would have been like yesterday being in SNS or Alpha, because if you weren't really higher up, you probably had a heart attack when you heard something like this. I mean, it's huge.
Huge in our industry. Right.
Yep.
I know. I was like, oh, there was nobody around me when I saw it. I'm like, but
yeah, it's like, is it April Fool's? Because that's the type of joke you'd pull. Well, thank you so much, Merl, for joining us. We love having you on. Look forward to doing this again. And we're going to go visit your shop and see you Printing United everywhere else. So Merl's big into education, guys. And how do you educate, especially when it comes to these products and everything? You get events. You're going to go into the trade shows and so forth. Great place to learn. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to hammer them at that Printing United next month. So what does this mean? Tell us.
Right. We send little postcards. We have a T-shirt that says, "What do you think?" Right.
Now I'm thinking of a joke shirt that we could print. I was acquired by.
Nobody wanted me. Right.
Who wants to acquire me? Who has $2 billion to buy art?
Take $1 billion. Right.
Yeah, I'll take one. Oh, well, thank you
so
again,
much, as
Merl.
always, and so great to talk to you. So great to see you, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks, and I'll see you in Las Vegas and with the rest of the crew. So,
All right. Well, thank you, Merl, and
thank you.
I'll catch you next time.
Okay, you got it. Okay, bye.
Bye.